Okay. Now I have a problem. Because I moved it to the corner. Now I cannot move it out of the corner.
I just see a black screen at the moment, at least.
Show transition, full screen projector, no. Filters, properties? Can I move something to the middle? Hide, add, group, copy? Remove. What happens if I copy pasted? Tisk. I might have to delete it. Wonderful. So
Or rename it?
move. No, the problem is not renaming it. The problem is that I move it out of the picture. Remove it. And then add it again. I need a window display, window capture. Create new. And just select this one. There we go. See, no problem. No problem at all. And I just need to delete it once we're done. I guess we can start. How much do you remember from like everything?
I mean, we talked about this last time, so I'm not so super out of memory on it. Okay, I should also announce that it is going.
Oh right, yeah, I should, yeah. Okay, so I can just exit.
Cool. So we get into presumably the Persona gameplay loop.
There are 4 time slots: morning, day, evening, and night. Do I have all of those slots available?
Aside from certain mandatory events, such as attending class. So, I think the implication is that the like going to class and like Persona and stuff like that, that event is likely like that's being counted as one of the slots. I think that's what it's trying to imply. But it is, I'm not sure how you phrase that better. Especially if you can use that on some days.
Right. Like, what Persona does is, if you have the day, if you're going to school, you only have, like, evening and night. And if you're not going to school, you have day and night. So you always have 2 time slots. So it depends on the amount of time slots you have. I would say you have 2 time slots available, either this or this or this or that, or just say you have only 2 available. But maybe we have all 4.
I assume on some days you'd have all 4, basically.
That would be the implication.
Which does imply that unless there's just like a amount of content, it's going to be a much shorter time span than like the take a month to do this that you'd see in Persona.
Yeah. Oh, something I found funny. Well, you haven't played ReFantasio, right? And you want to play ReFantasio.
Yeah, no, I haven't played any notable game in a while, and that's definitely my list of the ones that I want to play and not be spoiled on.
I mean, I guess
I actually do own it. I have an unopened box, delivery box that has like a collector's edition or something in it. I haven't even opened the delivery box.
I was just gonna mention something related. Did you play Persona 5?
Yeah, I played that at release.
Oh, we have the dev.
Hey, Be Kind's here today.
Did you befriend the teacher in Persona 5?
Define befriend, because I know there are different routes you could take on that one.
Like, what is it? So it's up to 10, so I think you get the power like around 50% or 60%.
I don't even remember. The original Persona, did you play the original Persona or Royal?
I played both, but I didn't complete Royal.
Okay. So you'd remember that in Persona 5, and they changed it in Royal, a lot of the like party sort of mechanics, like stuff like Baton Pass was behind completing Confidants, or at least partially completing Confidants.
Was that in the original or Royal?
The original. They changed it in Royal, if I remember correctly.
Right.
I didn't play Royal. I just remember that being one of the notable things that they changed.
Yeah, I think I do remember that changing. What of it? Or
it changes how you approach confidants, just because they're much less required to at least do partially.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that one of the teacher is actually overpowered. Because one of the abilities she gives you is after a dungeon, she gives you that night slot available.
She doesn't give the night slot, does she?
Yeah. Normally when you make a dungeon, you are not allowed to like do social stuff after the dungeon. But if you befriend the teacher, she gives you...
She doesn't give the night slot. She gives you the ability to reclaim the dungeon crawling back into another night slot. Okay,
correct.
Gotcha.
I'm just gonna mention they understood how OP that ability is in ReFantasio. That's all I'm gonna mention.
That would imply that they undid that, or they built around the acknowledgement that you'd have that.
I'm gonna leave you with both
like
options.
Time management is something you have to. Even social sims like time management, that's a balancing thing from a game design perspective, right?
Yeah. What's so OP? I remember the first thing I did was like, every time I could call the teacher, I called the teacher and grind money so I can get the teacher super early, so I can get all the dungeon stuff. Like, it gives you so much time.
That's fair. It is one that is objectively better to get quickly.
Yeah. Also, I'm enjoying ReFantasio. That's it.
That's good.
So, be kind. Do you want anything? Do you want to comment anything before we like start or? Let's see if they are near their keyboard. One good thing that this game doesn't have, that is good, you don't have a cat that tells you to sleep early.
We'll see.
Be kind says...
Eager to see what we think. Okay.
Correct.
Cool.
Metaphor does food items so good. Do you mean visually or like mechanically? Because I never cooked in Fantasio. I never bought a single ingredient.
Whenever games have cooking and they want to like show off the aesthetics of the food, they typically go really, really hard on it.
And in Fantasio, cooking takes a time slot until you get a certain confident rank. Then you don't. But at that time, I'm like, well, I'm not used to cooking, so I'm not gonna cook anyway.
Does it call it confidant?
No.
That's a question that needs to be asked, and it's hard to answer. No, that's fun.
I mean, confidence like a word, right?
It's so good. Confidant is a person that you would confide things to. They are the person receiving the confession that you are confiding.
Do I have an objective? Social status? No. Oh, quest log. Doesn't seem I have any. Wait, wasn't this my room? Maybe they changed it. Quest log DVD, unfortunately. What happens if I go with this one? I changed it for convenience. I got it. Did the options shorten itself? Like before I had like like 6 options, now I have like 4. Oh. Got it. What happens if I wonder what would be a good option to indicate that there's more options. College slavery. There is an arrow pointing down, but it's hard to see. I need to make it more obvious. this is new.
It's bigger. I guess question for you, especially for the signs, how much of that is custom?
For me or for Be Kind?
For Be Kind, I don't think you could answer that one.
There's cooking. Oh. I'm doing parkour. And it's only for that door. Interesting. Let's see. What does bread give me? It just says a piece of bread and a piece of meat. I can make a meat sandwich. What is this? Passable issue.
Signs are part of the task that you bought, except the videos on one. Okay, that makes sense. Because they look good. I could definitely see going in and editing like the name on them, but like doing everything from scratch would be pretty tricky. Passability issue.
Kuroko hates it when I do that.
Whatever. I mean, that's the nature of watching someone play. They're gonna find stuff like that.
This is a very sketchy place for a general store. It could be worse. They could sell cookies and herbs. Or brownies and herbs. So that was the rec center, the library, the market, and let's go to the riverside. Oh, I was supposed to go to the riverside, damn it.
What's the... I'm trying to remember. Did we have a goal that we were trying to do?
We're trying to... Ow. We're trying to wake up... Was it... like, when we went into the hallway that we were not supposed to, they gave us like some sort of short summary. I forgot if it was Aurora or... Like, if we were supposed to awaken the personas, or we were supposed to come back with the redhead and her persona.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think you had it covered just in case of censor stuff at that point, if I remember correctly.
Probably. Time will advance. Okay. So that means I can go back and... I cannot go back and explore. Oh, I can. It's just a little bit hidden. So, College Dorms, Rec Center, Library, Street. Okay, so I cannot go to classes. Got it. And I'm pretty sure I investigated everything else.
Always better to get the dungeon out of the way anyways, right? Persona logic.
Persona logic, yeah.
That's how you always play Persona. You stop, and then you just do the dungeon in one day, and then you just do everything else for the rest of it.
I'm gonna say ReFantasia does something interesting with that, and leave it at that.
Interesting. Which means they like are fully aware that's how most people play it.
Probably, yeah.
At least once you like get decent at the game, that's how you play it.
Oh no, wait. I used the wrong thing. This is... I was about to heal the guy. I'm okay here. Fucking mandatory wizard MC for MP drain.
Really depends on the needs of the MP. I'm sort of remembering the earlier comment that we made about, oh, it feels like there's a lot of MP and it's like not really a strategic decision. But if there's like a Persona dungeon grind sort of thing going on eventually, then that's where the MP was relevant for that.
Yep.
Because if that's the intention, then I can see the bigger value making a lot of sense. Sorry, give me 5 minutes. I need to grab something real quick.
I think I cornered the guy. Oh, he was about to die anyway. Oh well. Okay. Sorry, had to step away. If you have any questions, I'm back. I don't have questions. I just fought people in the riverside. I thought something was gonna happen, but it doesn't seem like it. I'm just checking if anything changed here. It says Sarah and Corona, so yeah. I don't think anything changed here. At least nothing obvious. I can go back though. Okay, but nothing interesting happens. I guess I can go to sleep and see what's up. At this point in the story, you're waiting for Corona to wake up and Sarah to pursue the enemy's nest. So I have 3 times what I'm hearing. I'm not tired to sleep. Okay, so I can study. Current week scheduled. What day is it? Monday. Okay. Okay, so I have until Saturday for something interesting to happen. Okay. This game looks good, but they ought to change the sprites of the characters to match the background. I wonder how feasible is that. Like, there are sprite generators for that kind of like style. But I don't think they offer as much customizability as RPG Maker. Let's see, I have one,
Hello,
two,
sorry, back.
3, 4. I have 4 days. Oh, there's alchemy. It would be quite difficult for me to do. The build assets are a lot less flexible.
Yeah. The one option that comes to mind for me is just the external border. Because that's one thing you can do in like Photoshop and whatnot, is you can sort of, because it's a transparent background, you can sort of select all and create sort of like a border that you can sort of fill in. It would probably be imperfect, but there's probably some ways you could go about the character sprites to make them look a bit more in place. That would probably be the minimum effort way to help. I'm not even sure how much. Sorry, what did I miss?
I fought people on the riverside, but we're basically burning time for 4 days.
Ah, gotcha. Very Persona.
So identity cannot change after the prologue. That is an interesting decision for a TFGS game.
I think that's fair, though.
It is fair.
Obviously, you won't be able to offer more choices that are based around this thing. But like, if I were the one to be like, I want to design this game to make it like manageable, but also reflective, I would be like, just decide your stuff now. We got this, and we have a few paths basically laid out that you sort of opt into via playing the prologue specifically. Sort of like a games with like different origins in the prologue and stuff like that, but it goes into like the same main story. It sort of reminds me of that a little bit.
And I guess if you want to play like either male to female reluctantly, or what would be the opposite? Optimistically. You would choose like even before you play the game, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna go play a reluctant transformation, and I want to like return to being a guy, or like an optimistic transformation.
That's absolutely not uncommon. I know for Between people talk about doing high acceptance and low acceptance runs.
Right. My thinking is that player. Go ahead.
Now, the ultimate downside is still going to be you then lose an avenue for introducing choice and like choice that has a real effect on the future of it into the rest of the game. So with a Persona system, you're not really lost for choice. So I guess I'm not too immensely worried about it in that frame because it's choice built into the mechanics.
And I think Be Kind thinks in a similar way. They say that the players go into already knowing like what they want.
So already knowing isn't the... I don't think it's a choice between... Like, I think we all agree most people know what they want going in. Outside of a very rare situation. I think typically what you're deciding between is a static decided route or a dynamic route that feels like you're consistently moving in a direction. It is more to do with whether the choice matters or whether getting into the route matters from like a design perspective. That's probably the best way I can phrase it.
Right. I think my choice is not either or, but rather than how I would phrase it is reluctant acceptance. Reluctant acceptance. It's like, oh, I don't want to. Maybe, it's interesting. Okay, fine. Since I'm here, might as well try it. Something like that.
Something in that realm, yeah.
Instead of, oh, I'm a girl, yay, or oh, I'm a girl, oh no. And I want to return being a guy.
Yeah. I've also talked about how I think like reluctance at the start is just natural no matter what, so
And I think this game has done reluctance a realistic take of, oh, okay, I'm suddenly a girl, I have breasts, and this is not normal, I'm gonna freak out now.
that is absolutely the normal reaction.
So that was social stats. I'm just gonna read time slot. Oh no, I'm a girl, but I did get stats, worked really well, get combat good. And that is the thing, right? Like, if you start your journey as a weak, unconfident man, get transformed, and then at the end of the journey, you're a girl that's really popular, charismatic, and can defend herself, do you tie that to your own ability or to your gender? And if you return, are you going to be afraid of returning to your original weak, unconfident self? Or do you think you would, like, retain what you got from your journey? And even though you're a man, you would also be a strong, charismatic man. It's an interesting resolution for the
There's
character.
also so many ways you can take it. There's also so many ways you can take it, which then would become the advantage of locking you into like a specific route. So you're sort of you're on a specific route, and you establish the expectations of what that means long term throughout the game, instead of having like everyone interpreting in whatever way that they've decided they want to.
Okay, I can combine bread and meat to create a potion. I think there might have been cheese as well. I call this potion a sandwich. No cheese yet. What was the other one? In the market, there was bread, there was meat. I mean, I can still make a meat sandwich.
Is that something we can do in this?
There's bread and there's meat. Bread, aloe, meat, and music. Oh, I think I found a bug. You can hear the water. Like, you can hear the river, right? I'm pretty sure this is because of the river. Oh no, the river's actually quieter.
Huh. So you mean like it has the background sound for water moving, but you think that it wasn't turned off properly, basically?
Correct. I mean, for me it happens a lot.
Yeah, that's a very easy one to do because you keep most maps as none for background sounds, which means it doesn't override it.
Yeah, you can still hear the water, the river as well here. It's just a matter of, is it fade ME? I think something like that. Fade out ME when you change. Special if you put it on the bike. If you put it on the bike, I think it's easier. Now what can I do? I can study? I can study more. Now it's the morning. Should probably use this wisely, so I can only go to the library on the first 2 time slots. Let's study academics. Look at all the pluses. And now there's classes. Okay, that makes sense.
Get to unlock it first, confidant.
Would be the second one. Sarah's should be the first one. Maybe.
Can we hang out with her at this point?
Not yet.
So not quite.
So the teacher's first.
This teacher?
Maybe. Confident quote-unquote hangouts coming soon TM.
Is that a development statement or a game progression statement?
Someone joined. Someone left.
Anymore. Is everything I'm going to learn in this class wrong? Well, no, that's not how science works. The way science works is that we have observations and we put together theories in order to best explain the accumulation of all observed data, basically, right?
Yep. So, not the methods.
Magic would just be in it. So, yeah, so what's there wouldn't be wrong, it just might be incomplete.
Correct. They're based on observation of non-magical forces, and then if you introduce magical forces, then the whole system might not work super well. Like the whole heliocentrist model of the universe versus Earth-centrist model of the, well, not universe, but solar system.
Yeah, basically.
Or like the introduction of relativity to physics. Or even worse, what is this thing? Quantum physics. In the quantum physics, like, works on like, works on reality. Like, lasers work based on quantum physics, I think.
Mm-hmm. The predictability and ability to use that predictability to inform development of stuff like technology is a big part of why we know it's on the right track. But there definitely are a lot of assumptions we make in science, which has a lot to do with the assumptions that come with the limitations of all the data we have being our own observations in some form. Like we can take measurements via tools and whatnot, but they are ultimately observations.
Yep. And those.
So there's a handful. Sorry, I was just gonna say. So there's a handful of assumptions that we make within the scientific realm in order to get to conclusions, and those have held true, basically.
Yep.
We don't know with absolute certainty that they always will, always have, or anything like that, but they have been consistent and held true within the span of what we've been able to check.
And I was gonna mention that those what we see depends on how we measure, and how we measure depends on our tools, and our tools can be wrong or not precise.
True, but that usually is more handled via. I'm blanking on the term for it. When other scientists repeat the experiments, repeatability.
Repeatability.
There's a term for it. I'm forgetting. I think there's another term for it that I'm forgetting.
Do you know what's a really good use of artificial intelligence? Scanning the brain.
Maybe. I'd have to look into that more, but yeah. There's definitely opportunity there for things to go wrong, right?
Yeah. It's just definitely more accurate than a single person trying to measure all the neurons.
But I'll be super interested if you actually delve into the idea of how does magic actually work with physics? Because like that's one of the fun world building elements I have in between, where it's like as like fantastical some of the stuff in that is, it's all put together in a way that I see this works with physics.
Physics. How do you make a rock float then in between? Can you make a rock float?
So, can you make a rock so the idea conceptually in between is that physics is one like manifestation of how the magical elements can just come about. So there's a concept called equilibrium. So the idea, like, if you have a bunch of different things that can do fantastical supernatural abilities, that sort of things, if they all had super duper powers in that regard, what would happen if you made the entire universe having like some capability of being like omnipotent? They'd all be omnipotent, and their powers would interact with each other, and they'd cancel each other out. And where it cancels each other out at is what we call equilibrium, and what we in the real life would call physics.
Physics.
That's how I incorporate IRL physics into my concept.
Right. Interesting. Well, that doesn't answer me. How do you make a rock float?
In water?
Well, in water, in air. I was thinking air.
Like magically?
Yeah.
Well, the underlying concept is like if you wanted to make a rock float, that would just because you don't have all those different influences stopping you from using your own omnipotent supernatural power in a way to just will things into to make it float however you want. If you have stuff stopping you because it's canceling out all your powers, then you can't do that. That's the real world. But if you remove a bit of that, or if you only have some, and there's less constant other influencing factors, then suddenly you're capable of influencing your will on the reality more, basically.
Got it. So basically, if there is less influence, what I imagine would be wills, the more probable it is you can do quote-unquote magic.
Yeah, basically. And the same concept applies to the idea applies like in real life events. You could have situations where the equilibrium physics gets out of balance so that some of the wills are capable of exerting their powers in a way that could actually affect the real world. But because equilibrium is constantly applying to them, if they do that, then there's a rubber banding effect to go back to equilibrium.
Right.
Because you can't stay out of equilibrium indefinitely.
So the stronger the powers, the stronger the rebound.
Yeah, like with equilibrium around, with like the entirety of like Earth around, you'd have tons of different things influencing you, basically. That sort of situation.
Right.
But that's like fun to me. Like the best sort of systems for fantastical stuff in stories that I like are the ones that can sort of become a pseudoscience unto themselves and have that sort of like underlining logic for how it works, how it affects the world, how the world sort of you can, like, in the same way science has novel testable predictions from the theories and whatnot about why things work, and you can test it and you can see, oh, that's how things work. Like if you're playing a game and you're introduced like to enough information, you could make novel testable predictions about that, and that could help you even like anticipate how the world works or how the story is going to go, that sort of stuff. I think Xenoblade was the biggest one for me, where I was playing through that and I was like speculating on that, and I was like predicting, oh, where's the story gonna go here, and using that as like a underlying sort of like reason for like, oh, that's why it might go this way, that's why it might go that way. I love when stories have that sort of fantasy system.
Oh. Whoa, I can go through the lightning post. Yay. I'm going through the store. So we have meat, we have bread, we have sweet bread, and we have carrots. And we have rice. This is, well, could be coffee. Might be coffee. Oh, something to note, if we can still hear. This piece of the street doesn't have music to it. So if you go here, and then you go back, the same music as the hallway like continues. But if you go to the main street and
I
back,
can imagine a few reasons. Well, I can imagine a few reasons why a tab would do that, but it definitely introduces these concerns.
I don't see anything new, so time to spend the afternoon studying until I get a new skill at least. I'm trying to fix these bugs in real time. That's kinda usually what I do as well.
I know how you feel. Exactly how you feel. Part of why I have just like a bug and typo thread for each game, where it's just like, and then I just go through it at a point in one day, get them all done, right in one span. I don't want to like let them get off the mind once you start. Philosophy would be an interesting class to have in games like this.
How come?
Well, like, we talk about science and whatnot for a lot of the stuff that we talked about before, and like how Between works, or how this might end up elaborating on its universe. But like philosophy is relevant to that too. That could make for some interesting world-building discussions, basically.
Right. I have a weird relationship with philosophy classes because I did not find it consistent. Like first year's philosophy classes, it was like basically all history classes. Like this is what Plato talked about. This is what Aristotle talked about. And then the later years, it was one of either logic or I would call it either pseudoscience would be like an insult, but it's basically the story of a specific process of a science part.
Philosophy?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so this we're gonna study about like the philosophy of vision, and this is like all the experiments that have been done so far in this scenario, and we're just gonna ponder if they're correct or not.
Philosophy's so hit or miss for being interesting, I'd say that.
Yeah. And then there's logic, which in my university, like, logic was philosophy instead of math. And that was interesting. I saw game theory. That was interesting. Oop. The professor just shifted. They're not aligned. Like the professor's like half a square. Like it's not in the middle, it's like half a square. I don't even know how you get that. Can you see my mouse by the way? Oh yeah, you can see my mouse.
Yeah, I can see your mouse. So one reason that might happen is if it's tagged differently in the characters folder. You recall how you can put like a $sign before the name in the actual folder for these?
Right? Oh, do you think that affects
stuff like that controls where like it starts on the the bottom of it starts on the tile. So like for characters, they don't want characters who are actually like the bottom of the shoe sprite is at the bottom of the tile, right? They want it sort of like in the middle of the tile, so it's a bit more realistic. So I'd almost guess that it is marked in a way that has it so that the bottom of the shoe is like at the actual bottom of the tile. Maybe. It's hard to tell with this tile set just because it is so much is so much different in terms of style and scale.
Right.
You can't line things up as easily.
I find it interesting that the professor doesn't have a face sprite. Maybe he will have one in the future.
Nayern said it's the exclamation point that controls whether the character is shifted 6 pixels up or not. No point, shift, otherwise no shift. Okay, I knew it was one of those. I never remember what the combination is, so thank you.
I didn't even know there was a difference. I thought they were...
that's how you can that's how you can use that's how like they put in like the non human things in that, like fire and stuff like that. That's why they put those at the beginning of certain things, so that it can just be like a tile.
I thought it was order.
Nope. There are modifiers to tell the game how to handle the file when rendering.
Huh. Neat. You learn something
You use
new every day.
You use the exclamation point for doors and stuff. Correct. That's where you'll see it a bunch. Thank you again, Nair.
Huh. Neat. Nice little detail.
Which part I looked away back at Discord for a thing?
Basically they just like summarize what you do during the week.
Oh, okay. So, which can vary, I imagine. So that's
correct. I imagine it's just a bunch of if statements. Like, if you studied, do this. If you, like, clear the thing, you do that.
The thing that scares me about that is the idea of you don't set it up to be scalable. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, that makes sense, but it's very easy to turn it into, like you said, just a bunch of if statements. I guess it depends how you do the if statements, but there's a lot of ways I can think of that would probably be pretty scalable, but there's also definitely going to be ways that are not scalable and just down the line will become unmanageable.
Something I want RPG Maker to add would be switch statements. It's basically a bunch of if statements. But essentially it's one if check and then it gives you like a bunch of answers. Like, let's say you put like, what's your favorite number? And then it's essentially if 1 do this, if 2 do that, if 3 do that. What I do is put them in code.
I mean, you can just make multiple if statements without like an else element to it, and you'd achieve the same thing, albeit a bit more cluttery.
Yeah, but switch statements.
I've done a bunch of that basically with the more cluttery approach.
What?
One nice thing about MZ is that you can collapse them at the very least, so you can make those go away and it's a bit more clean.
Yeah. Specifically the new MC, because the MC that released, like MC at release didn't have that option.
Yeah, they're still doing occasional updates basically, so if you haven't updated your MZ in a while, that might be why not. I think it was like a year or two ago now, so...
Okay, I still have the year or two option. I bought MC actually, Steam, so I can just copy paste that.
You don't have it? You don't have it?
I didn't have it.
The new update to it?
No.
The update with it. Really?
Oh,
okay.
With the one that...
Yeah, that was a lot.
The ones that collapse, I do have that.
That feels like a long time ago. That happened, I think, when I was working on the Mockingbird technical side back in 2023. I think it was around that time that I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Worth updating. Do a poor man switch statements with labels. Ooh, I don't know what all switch statements enable, but I definitely use labels for a bunch of logic. I'm not a coder. I just sort of like hash together similar coding concepts via the tools that they give me in RPG Maker.
I only do labels to go back and go forth. Like to skip a bunch of stuff. Go ahead.
One thing I'll do is I'll have like an event that has multiple scenes in it, or like multiple progressions of a scene in it. And in order to allow me to say, oh, okay, so I have this variable tracking the progression of the scene or progression of the conversation. Once I'm done with that conversation, I'm going to +1. And by having like an if 1, if 2, if 3, if you did if 2 and you did a +1 at the end, suddenly that tracking variable's 3, and then you go into that. So I often use labels to like jump to the end to make sure it's not doing anything it shouldn't after it does the first one, so that it will be 3 the next time. Instead of playing 3 then, you'd have to like talk to the person again or activate the next point of the part of the scene for that.
I do the same thing.
That's an example of how I like labels. Yeah.
Another way that I do labels is like, let's say you have a bunch of options and then you want to go back. I make a label for that.
That too. That's very useful.
Like, hi, welcome to the bakery. Do you want donuts or do you want bread? And if you choose bread, like, oh, do you want sourdough or do you want normal? Like, oh, like, you know what? I actually want a donut. Then I go back, and then that's a label. Really useful for nested options.
I almost want to like show off some of the longer common events that I have, especially for like the battle ones. That's like end of turn, the battle one, end of action, post action one that I have in like between.
My battle logic.
So many, basically so many nested ones. So just a massive influx of nested stuff that uses logic like that to make it manageable or viable.
I use a lot of common events. For a new project I'm making, I already am like 100. The thing is, I use most of the common events as functions, and I was taught, okay, so functions is you do one thing and do one thing only. If you needed to do 2 things, then you build 2 functions. So that's why I have like 100 common events, aka 100 functions. Any day in the evening. Only 100 common events? Yet. Only 100 so far.
Oh, do I need to open up between and look at what I'm at?
That'd be interesting.
Let's see. I need to do. I have this somewhat organized, so I need to do some math to remove the blank ones from my count. I am at 253 common events.
200?
253.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's horrible. Especially because I started using them for like some one-off system events, like the memoirs, and a lot of the actual like system-based ones get covered in the first 100 or so. Then like individual quick ones that I use throughout the story have like 50. Then system-based ones that the rest of the system-based ones that are a bit less drastic plus gameplay, like a specific like common event that's called after like a skill and whatnot, that makes up like 80 or so. And then
Right.
there's another like 20 or so for the memoir system, which is the side story vignettes.
I actually have like 200 because I remember that 100 of them is just the you clicked on image number 1. You click on image number 2, you click on image number 3, number 50, number 54, all the way up to 100. So that's 100 common events.
Yeah. Yeah, typically when I like start a game, I'll like designate certain ranges for certain like what I want to achieve with it. Like this is for gameplay skills. Um this is for like running the basic dialogue system, especially in the newer games that I've done where I'm doing more than just having the portrait in the dialogue box. Stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Oh, in case you missed it, remember the guy that died? Quote unquote died.
Yes.
They find it.
Yeah, yeah.
They found him like on the news.
On the news? Okay.
Yes.
Is that what just happened? Sorry, I was looking at common events. I need to pay. Sorry, I need to pay more attention.
Yeah, that's
I
what's
keep getting
happening.
distracted.
I thought I mentioned it because it sounds very important. I would assume the scene
Yeah, it
would be
does. He
completely
was the one.
silent if it wasn't for the Reaver.
He was the one that was. He was the one that they chased into the alley.
Correct. Can you hear the river?
Yep. Talking about how many common events and whatnot made me curious again how many words are in between at the moment. The sort of like script that lets you sort of count, and is somewhat accurate. Um, Currently was at 387,000 words.
Sheesh. That's a lot.
Maybe. I feel like it gets smaller each time I check in terms of how much it increments. Like I'm adding less to the game. Oh, I'm getting slower. Oh no, paranoia.
For me, on a good day, I can write 1,000 words in 1 hour.
Oh,
Therefore, that's 300 hours.
I have absolutely no idea how long it would take. So
And obviously, those 300 hours would not even count like battle things, common events, maps.
it doesn't count common events. I do think if I want a super accurate count, I'd have to move more into there. So it's 387 plus. Because I did do some stuff to like at some point I was curious. I wanted to include common events, So I would move some of the bigger ones over into like a blank, into a blank map, just to have them there in the count. So there's some of that in the counts, but not all of it, because I haven't done that in a long time. You know, this like river sound would actually make a lot of sense if there's like a light rain going on, which would fit the scene quite well.
Okay, so the dad said that he's happy that God brought his son in. This being relatively like in the 90s, 80s. I wonder if it's like, oh, I'm super religious, therefore I thought God bring him in. Or
I think it's probably a situation where it's more like this is something that we thought would never happen. So I fall back on the explanation that I give for anything I don't really understand to say, that's what it is. I'm not gonna like look a gift horse in the mouth, that sort of thing.
my other interpretation was that maybe there was a spirit that gave them his son back.
Yeah, that's actually pretty fair, especially in this. I wasn't thinking along those lines. Chef Quote says, and that's why I don't play games till they finish. I'm not reading 300k words over and over, but if I don't lose the magic, the atmosphere. That's one reason why I see it as important to break saves as minimally as possible. Especially once you start actually building up content and whatnot. So, like, there's probably one more time I'll break saves, and then maybe, like, pre-final release I'll break saves. Just to, like, put some things in, like, a production sort of style intent. So maybe 2 more times, but I am very hopeful most people don't have to play the game to get the full experience more than a couple times. Sorry, was this the mom? Or
This is the little sister. The little sister that...
sister.
Yes, she's currently in high school though. 3rd year of high school.
I can see that. I can see that. Sorry, I have a... I have a very specific idea that comes to mind whenever I hear little sister.
My little sister's 28. It's in her 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's definitely not... Like, our relationship's more like... I would say twins rather than big sister, little sister, especially how anime depicts it.
The one thing I'd say about this situation of, hey, they don't even want to bring him to the hospital to see what's going on. One, he's definitely an adult by this point, so he can make his own decisions. Or at the very least, they can't, like, declare, yes, it has to be our way. We are guardians and parents, and we get the call. But, like, I think, like, police would get involved at that point. If someone just showed up after 2 years, I feel like you wouldn't get that much of a say at that point.
That I don't know. Definitely how they describe how she describes him. I would go with him to the hospital, but I think they still like. It's weird, because if you go to a hospital and be like, hey, I want him to go into the hospital. Like, he looks okay. He should do it himself, and then it takes a while.
On the news, right?
What?
It was on the news, right? That's where we saw.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, actually, yeah. They should probably just take him to the hospital.
regardless of what happens with the hospital stuff, the police would be involved. They'd be here trying to like close the case because presumably there's been a missing persons report
Oh, that is
for
true.
the past 2 years.
That is true. I don't know how police works.
I mean, I say all this, but I think this is me being like, well, if the police works how like you think they should, that's probably how this should be working. But you know, it's the police, so that's a stretch unto itself.
I grew up fearing the police, so yay. Fearing. Skin
I guess
stitcher.
one piece. Oh, we both decided we had a thought at the same time. This is quiet, 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 quiet. Both of us have a thought at the same time. Go.
I just said the name Skin Stitcher.
Right, right. I had a different thought. So little piece of feedback that I'd give, and I don't recall if this was as prominent in the previous stuff we played. At the very least, I didn't notice it. But it does feel like there is maybe too much of a reliance on the neutral face on each character. It feels a bit less dynamic when they're like over half the time, well over half the time it feels like at least using that neutral face expression.
Hmm. I know you like.
It makes every
Go
it
ahead.
makes everything sorry, it makes everything feel a little bit more flat. And this is part of why when we discuss expressions for like Oathbreaker and whatnot, I like more subtle ones because it
Hmm.
feels like actual expressions people would make just like in a normal conversation, while the overtop ones are very often just like really out of place for that. But you'd have variations to actually make it both like hit that middle ground between subtle and not changing at all, or yeah, and to try to get to a level where you have just sort of like a enough expressions to naturally show all these like bewilderment or like what are you talking about there, because you're not going to say that with you're not going to be like what are you talking about there with a very neutral face on it. You'd be like, because like if you read that and you see a very neutral face, if you're just like imagining in your head, the voice I hear whenever I read that with that neutral face on screen is like, well, what do you have there, versus like what do you have there.
Right. And I guess it
I'm
also
not a
depends.
voice
Go
actor,
ahead.
but at the very least I hope that gets the idea across. Sorry.
Uh, I was gonna say like it might also depend on your writing style. Like you are very, I would say, serious. So for it to be more digestible, there has to be a lot of micro expressions. I would say micro in quotations. Um, Meanwhile, me, I have like a
Realistic
more
expressions.
what? What's right?
Realistic expressions.
Right. And meanwhile, I like my way of writing is more lively, wacky, weird. Therefore, I use the more uncommon expressions way more often.
Yeah, that's one thing I've found on like some of the Oathbreaker characters that we have less expressions on, but some of them are a bit more wacky. Like Flynn in particular has does not the expressions for Flynn does not encompass everything that I want Flynn to look like he's feeling. So I do find myself using some of them in places I don't feel like they quite fit.
Right.
Um, or yeah.
Yeah, I feel Flynn's more expressive. Reagent's definitely less expressive.
Flynn's probably more expressive in your head because he has those expressions and they're basically all more expressive.
Probably.
I think Flynn doesn't have just a basic neutral face. That's part of the problem. So one thing like you avoided that can be a problem, and I've noticed be a problem, is having the neutral face be like a smile.
Mm.
Because as soon as you have like the basic neutral face be like happy in any capacity, it becomes so inappropriate for so many serious scenes. Charlotte's expression sort of had that problem too. The amount of times I use her like little pout emote expression in order to have her express something, um, when it probably should just be a basic neutral one, is a ton, because that pout was like just irritated, and then it becomes just sort of like her serious expression, like I'm locked into this conversation. This is serious, and I'm not happy about this expression. It's playing a role that I'm not sure it entirely fits, but there's a
Right.
few characters for Oathbreaker that we have that for,
So
and
the
it's that one in particular is a massive lesson learned, because like we went out of our way to try to make sure, oh, these cover these different situations, stuff like that, and I just underestimated how important it is to have sort of like a neutral, not smiling face.
Flynn and Charlotte were like amongst the first ones to make, right?
Sorry, what, Charlotte and who?
Flynn.
They were earlier on, but I'm not sure they were first ones.
Like I think Otis was made after the twins, even though Otis comes earlier.
Flynn and Regan were definitely two that were made early on in collaborating with that artist. I don't know if early on overall.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting, just like, it's like a design technical side of storytelling that can be easy to overlook. As Bekind says, they made the mistake making too many heavy expressions and not enough subtle ones, which result more in this direction. Yeah, I can see that.
Right, right.
I don't know how many expressions you have per character. I generally recommend using all 8 on the individual character stuff. The way that I've set them up and that I like them and I think covers a large amount is you have neutral, happy, sad, angry. That's the top. Bottom is surprised, then has the advantage in some way. Stuff like smirks or like scoffing or stuff like that. And then has the disadvantage, stuff like pouting and stuff like that, and then blush. And then for each of those initial 7, you try to take that concept and add like a little bit more of a personality to each of them so that it covers a bit more scenarios. And then between those 7, blush is obviously going to be like a very specific one. But between those 7, you cover a lot. And I don't feel as though I've run into the same situations with Between that I have with Oathbreaker, and feeling like I don't have the expression nearly as much as I want. But the problem with Oathbreaker is some of the characters only have like 5 expressions, which is something that we agreed on for scale, making it like a scope management in terms of prices for commissions and whatnot. But like if I went back now, I'd probably have like 1. I'd probably make sure they all have 7. I'd
Right.
probably be doing that.
Yeah, for I forgot what came first. If me working on Oathbreaker or me making specifically Shrimp for OU. But like recently I also like tried to make 8 expressions and basically the same expressions you mentioned. Funnily enough,
I do remember
go
introducing you. Sorry, I do remember introducing you to that concept when we were doing Oathbreaker. Like we didn't have all 8 for every character we did, but I do remember introducing that. And I do know that I introduced it to you partway through because Charlotte doesn't have that.
Correct.
In terms of like the organization of the 8s. So like we got like Charlotte down, some of the others down, and then started going with the regularity of it always being sort of the same 8 in the same order, so you could predict it when you're like so it's easier to type stuff up and whatnot.
Right, right. Yeah, really useful. I was just gonna say that I didn't find trouble expressing myself with Shrimp. And I technically did 16 expressions for shrimp, but I only use 8 because those are the 8 that are like more serious, and the
So
others.
you had sort of like 8 ones for normal conversation, and then you had like another 8 that were more bombastic for silly moments.
Like 4 of the silly ones are literally just her, ahoge, like the cow leaf.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, what we made the emotes out of.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of conversations I can use this.
Yeah, that's very, very specific.
It's just when I'm messing up with her height.
Right, when you're making a joke and whatnot.
Skin stitcher.
Oh, that's sad.
It's a hermit crab.
Especially for the family. The
Yeah.
idea of having your child come back after you already went through the grieving process and have that hope and presumably have to get it ripped away again.
Yep. Oh, really now? What do you think?
Sarah was the sister, right?
No, Sarah's the redhead.
Oh, shoot. He was her boyfriend, right?
Correct.
I'd say pull the band-aid off before it becomes a bigger wound.
Right? Like, my ideal scenario would be not to tell her right now, but to tell her, like, in the morning. Like, hey, did you have a good sleep? Oh, hey, I need to tell you something.
I would probably just say it now at this point. Especially after the skeptical conversation of something's wrong, that sort of thing. You're probably much more set in the right mindset to be accepting of like, yeah, that's not really how it is. And you probably you won't be giving time for her to potentially like settle into a, what's the word for it? Settle into a false hope that would grow as maybe like you leave, you don't have any sign anything's wrong. Hey, you just sort of like go about your day. Hey, maybe everything's all right. Maybe I'm not going to be in their life anymore, but I'm happy they're back at the very least, and we can go save them from whatever's happening. And then you have the discussion. No, that's just they're just dead. That's on us using their body. Like if you like give that opportunity to introduce that hope and let that hope build up, it's just going to be a more painful band-aid later.
Right.
Obviously, every situation varies, but in this case, I do think this is better.
Especially for the family.
Yeah, no, for anyone who would have that hope. Yeah, especially for the family, but for anyone who would have, like, hope of someone that they cared for coming back. All the more reason this scene would go pretty well with having like a little bit of a rain.
Wednesday evening. And it happens on Saturday. Okay, so I have Thursday and Friday off. Let's save first of all.
So you have a deadline of later in the week, which would then make 4 slots way more manageable. If you have to do it before Friday.
I think I have to prepare myself for Saturday, and then I think we're doing the thing on Saturday. Because Sarah says as soon as she wakes up, we're doing the thing.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I think I misread it then.
And so I need to buy these 3 things. I think this was the original outfit. Yeah. So it's the evening. The only things on the evening. Oh, I think I can work. Let's see how much it gives us. I can work at the music store. I was wrong. Video store, not music store. So it's a video store.
The MP4 store instead of the MP3 store? Sorry, I think I missed something. Is that our literal Uncle Ray?
I think so.
Or is that like a nickname? Or is that like a nickname? People just, like, all the cool kids call him Uncle Ray.
I don't know.
I just don't remember him before, and I don't know if that was when I walked away or something else.
They mentioned it in the cafeteria that Lucas can work. But I forgot what was the reason around it.
Alright.
No, it's just a nickname. He
just is Uncle Ray. It was in that. Oh yeah, I don't know if me face palming was audible, but fuck.
About what?
About just missing the beginning of the scene and asking questions. I need to, like, not pay attention to what's happening on my Discord at the same time. Sorry, I shouldn't be multitasking. I'm not that good at it.
I mean, you cannot change identity. So I wonder what would happen if you
you
choose all the girly options.
If you want to explore that, I'm not against it. I don't really have a good reason to pick either, because I wouldn't pick either, personally.
I would choose romantic, honestly. I'm super bad at scary movies.
Well, yeah, for me, I usually either just don't care about horror, or it's like jump scares, and I don't like those.
The only way I approach horror is by watching MatPat game theories.
Yeah, a bit of that. A bit of that.
Choose romantic for reasons.
Be kind. Do we need Do we need the screen to put above this just in case it's gonna get too hot and heavy for Twitch?
Okay.
Good,
Gender
good.
bender rumblings.
Gender bender? Uh-oh. Oh no. What was the title? Did it give a title?
No.
Story revolved around a high school boy slowly turns into a girl due to a curse. Okay. I'm suddenly expecting a reference to like a TFTG game.
Every time he did something feminine, his features would change more. I think this is how to throw... You throw like a girl?
Oh, I don't remember all those. You missed it. Do you have a
log
text
feature?
log? I think it didn't have it before, but like you've updated it, so I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Ooh.
What key do I press for the quest log? For the text log?
Or is it just in the menu?
Shift.
Shift.
A reflection hex.
Okay. I get it. I was gonna guess that was it, just based on our recent interactions. There's a game called A Mirror's Curse that Be Kind Rewind is in the server for, as well as the owner of that. It seems I think they're all friends and whatnot, and them along with someone who was really liking Between in it joined my server and has been sporadically there occasionally. So basically a TFTG game called A Mirror's Curse. So I'm aware of it. I've not played it.
Is it a... I'm hesitant to say my next sentence, but is it a game?
It's
or more like a choose-your-own-adventure?
I've not played it, but it's HTML, so it definitely has a higher probability of being something more along the latter.
It's Twine. But there are Twine games with, like, gameplay features.
I will say, if it was anything more than a typical Twine game in terms of mechanics, I would assume Be Kind would have said.
Like, resource management is gameplay. There are Twine games with resource management.
Oh, those are the worst ones.
I like them. It's closer to a choose-your-own-adventure or interactive story than LifeSim. Got it.
Gotcha.
I improved Charm twice, apparently.
Oh, that makes sense as to what
We
it
have
would
the
affect
author
then.
here.
Okay.
Oh, is Amadi the author, or...?
Oh, I didn't even notice that was you talking. You have a very similar color in chat as Be Kind.
To be fair, it doesn't seem
Hello,
like
Amadi.
Amadi is reflecting in the screen.
Oh, we have that problem again.
Yeah.
Where some people just don't get on the actual like stream chat.
Because
that might be something worth looking into at some point, because that keeps happening.
Yeah, like Be Kind is their first time in chat, but they're appearing. But Amadi's not.
Be Kind says you only need me anyways. That's not untrue. But yeah, no, it's definitely one that Amadi seems nice. It seems popular. Also, it seems like it's not heavy on like the not safe for work stuff. In the same way, like perhaps my writing might be. In like this game's writing might be. So I sort of get the feeling like it might be okay for a stream if it wasn't for the whole HTML twine elements of interactive novel. I'm hesitant on that, but I'm half tempted to suggest trying it on it.
Right, I could take a look, but yeah, I might be missing a few graphical elements for it to be streamable. Also, question.
It also depends how big the text is.
Yeah. Is it normal that it went from evening and skipped night? So basically, work takes 2 scenes, 2 time slots. Sorry. It has one not safe for work scene that has that can be fully skipped. But I don't think it would be a fun stream. Not unless we like voice acted or something.
Well, it's streaming. It's not. It would be streaming. So like, the game itself probably wouldn't be fun to stream itself, but it could give us stuff to talk about. If you've been watching the stream, like, there's so many tangents we go on just because of the topic that we're talking about. So it's not completely outside the realm of possibility that it could be decent. We've never tried it before. No. Maybe this is our excuse to try it once to see, oh, these actually are like decent for streaming.
We were warned to take 2 time slots. I'm just being distracted and not retaining 10% of the information.
Ooh, yeah, no, like that scene before where neither of us remembered that. The uncle things. Yeah. Ah. So, one thing I will note. Oh, sorry. Monty says you have to add a ton of commentary for it to fit not gonna lie, but who knows? Compared to a VN or JRPG, it's probably not great. Maybe. But it could always be a matter of we do a stream, try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm not against the possibility, but like, I'm not taking it off the table yet either. One thing I'll note, and it might be useful to Be Kind, and maybe Icarue too, if you haven't figured this out. I sort of figure you have though. If you have Notepad++, you can open a bunch of different of the files from the data folder at the same time. And you can do a Control F, search all open documents. If you have a big enough game, or if you ever find yourself like, this typo is somewhere, I don't know where it is, you could have the opportunity to find it much more quickly and just change it in the file directly, then save it, then reopen your game in the engine. I found that really useful for going back and bug fixing over the past year or two, when I actually let myself start not needing to track down every single thing in the event software interface in RPG Maker.
That is useful. I use
the one risk is you probably want to take backups before you start, because just earlier I was doing that for Between, and I broke the comment event somehow. I'm not even sure how. It just stopped being able to read it. Like, there's some segmentation of the code that suddenly got introduced that I couldn't find how I did it. So I had to go back to an old version and like copy paste 2 lines back and go redo the fixes that I did. Otherwise I would have just broken the entirety of the comment event.
Did you substitute all when you do it?
What do you mean?
Like, if you Control F, you have the option of like change one word or change all of them.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm not trying to do anything like that. I'm looking for specific occasions and fixing them. Sometimes I'll open a bunch if it's like, oh, I'm making this consistent typo. I'll open all of them and then Control F for all examples and change them all individually. But I'm not trying to replace them all.
Right. Nerny says RPG Maker sometimes get very angry if the white space formatting is incorrect.
Yeah, this is the first time I've accidentally broken it, and I've done it probably a good half dozen times now, for a half dozen releases at the very least. Probably more like 4 or 5, maybe 4 releases. Ignore me. But yeah, this is the first time I've broken it, and I don't understand why, so I completely get that.
Okay, I think I see the con of telling Sarah about the Skinwalker. She just went in without waiting for her persona to wake up. Which means that I cannot investigate the monster. Well, at least I can save. How about we call it a stream?
Okay. Where are we at, time-wise?
Almost 2 hours, yeah.
Do you think going in will be like an intro scene, or do you think it will be a more extensive scene?
I think it might be a more intensive scene. We're gonna actually ask Be Kind. I guess first question is how much is left, and then the second question is how much left is until the other save point. I was away for a moment. So
basically we're at the point that we're gonna go into the dungeon, and we're wondering if this is a good place to stop. But we're trying to make that decision based on how long the next scene is going to be, as well as how much content is left in general for us to do next time. Normally we guess. We can just ask you.
We're about to enter the dungeon. You are about
2/3.
2/3 of content.
2/3 of the content. Okay, probably a decent place to end it then.
Yeah, and then next time we finish it. Sounds good.
Yep.
Do not proceed. Actually, another suggestion. Maybe adding the calendar to your menu would be useful. That way you don't have to return to your apartment.
Or at the very least, or if it's technically difficult, you could, which it might be. I don't know how competent you are with that, because I'm not. You can make it a key item that you can use.
Oh right, yeah, that's also an option. I still have this.
I know I have difficulty settings as a key item just because I don't have enough knowledge of how RPG Maker V's stuff works. Like, I actually know RPG Maker MZ better at this point. Class banner key item or something that does sound useful. Yes, would be a good thing to call it. Doesn't have to be a calendar, literally. It can just be it could even be like a phone app. You could start you could make like a couple phone apps that you open up.
Oh, but remember,
Either,
this is like this is like the 90s, 80s, 90s,
or early 2000. I'm trying to remember precisely if there was a what's an app. You did have calendars on the precursors of the iPhone and whatnot in the early 2000s, depending on what the date is.
There's no specific time.
100%. Right, and that having apps on phones would date it.
Yeah, because I think I did not got apps with phones until the late
iPhone was like 2004, 2005.
And I got that at like 7, 8. Third world lag. The lag's
Anyway,
so
we're
bad
gonna
we
end
get
here.
technology 3 years later. Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, that's probably a good place to end it then, right?
Yep. I'm gonna save just to inflate the numbers.
Luckily, you don't have a save system that says how many saves have been made, because I'm pretty sure Between does that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure one of the games we played was
that,
like that.
Yeah, and I think someone capped it at like 999 at some point.
And what happened afterwards?
Just stayed at 999, I think.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, see you
so
all in 2 weeks, right?
Yep, I should be available again to stream again in 2 weeks. So, in terms of announcements, I think I have the Between walkthrough and bug update fix coming sometime this weekend. Magic 2 just came out from Icaru's side of developing things.
Yep.
Kuroko, a regular collaborator of Icaru's for Be Kind and Amadi, if you're listening, makes Magic 2 and a sequel to one that the two of them worked on together for Magic 1, and that had a new release come out. And we also have an update from Oathbreaker that is at the final step of being delivered, so we'll probably also have that this weekend at some point.
And Resident Maiden will come out next week, I think.
Right, which will be before we go.
For the public.
So that'll be the public release, and the Oathbreaker one will be a Patreon one. I think typically we do 2 weeks, give or take, off the Patreon one, since instead of your normal monthly one.
Yeah, because you're collabing.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you all for doing a thing. I don't have the words. I don't talk well.
What is talking?
A miserable pile of truth. What's the joke?
That's fair. And with that,
the Castlevania joke. I'm thinking of a Castlevania joke.
I have not played Castlevania or watched Castlevania.
But it's people. Oh, it's like, what is a human? A miserable pile of secrets. I think that's what it was.
Oh, you need to do the accent, otherwise I I do not understand.
There's an accent? It's a text game. There is no voice acting.
Doesn't Dracula say it?
Yes. But it's like a SNES game. I think.
There's voice acting.
Was there Okay, I'm wrong about everything. That's okay. It happens sometimes.
Insert pat emoji.
Okay, that's a good note to end it on. We should have ended this like 5 minutes ago. So, see y'all next time. Drive safely, everyone.